All right.
Okay.
We are
I
live.
will
Yep, got it.
Okay.
I
Sweet.
will start recording in 3.
There we go.
And it's Ken Kraetzer for CamVetsMedia. We cover cadets, midshipmen, the military, and veterans proudly since 2008, and it is Navy Week. This is our Navy Week huddle, and a lot of excitement building for Army's game versus the Midshipmen in Baltimore, 3 o'clock start on Saturday, broadcast nationally on CBS television. Okay, well, we've got our huddle assembled. I appreciate they covered for me last week. I'm still traveling back from San Antonio. But we've got our team, and we've got Colonel Sam Houston at the Beat Navy Studio in Huntsville, Alabama.
Hey,
We have Sam there?
Yeah, I'm right here. It's Beat Navy Week, and all that entails. We spend an entire year counting the days to this very week and the very thing that's going to happen this Saturday.
Very good. We'll have a lot more to talk about that in a second. And from Long Island, we've got Chuck Donegan. Chuck, how are you?
I'm good, Ken, and I think the name of Sam's studio takes on a great significance this week.
No, it sure does. Sure does. It's that week. It's a special week. Significance of the Army Navy game, 126th edition of this iconic rivalry. And we've got from New York City, we've got Curtis Harris.
Hey guys, how's it going? Always happy to be here. Go Army,
Good.
beat Navy.
Good, Curtis. Good to see you. And from the tundra of Minnesota, we've got Stephanie Sakry. Stephanie, how are you?
Very cold. We just had almost like 3 inches of snow fall down, and it's going to be really windy next, and it's not fun.
Okay, well, you're going to get to go to warm and sunny Baltimore, and then warm and
Yeah.
sunny Boston coming up. So a lot happening. I was at practice today. Talked a little bit with quarterback Hale Helms. He looked a lot better than he did after the game last week at UTSA. He looked rested and ready to go. And talked to Parker Poloski, the tight end who caught the touchdown pass against UTSA, and also a prior pass in that drive that on a 4th down, and also Samari Howard. And I talked a little bit to Cody Worley, and talked a little bit about the UTSA game. Cody said it was a very stressful last drive, pulling that drive, which ultimately was successful, but the Black Knights had to go 80 yards and convert 2 4th downs and depend on the quarterback to run the ball. But it came out successfully, and a win down there to set up this week, going down to Baltimore to play Navy. Now, one of the things going on tonight, and I just want to mention, we'll try to monitor in case we get a note on it, is the Campbell Trophy will be named at the National Football Foundation dinner in Las Vegas. My understanding is it starts at about 9:30 New York time, and so it'll probably be after we finish. But Andon Thomas, the Army co-captain, is one of the finalists, one of 16 finalists, and Andon managed to have a 3.98 grade point average in chemical engineering while being the leading tackler on the Army football team.
Jesus Christ.
Also in the game Saturday, Blake Horvath, the Navy quarterback, is a candidate. Horvath has already been selected to be a fighter pilot. And so I had a chance to chat with him down in Baltimore. Very impressive guys. All 4 of the captains in this game are very impressive. Kaleb Fortner also for Army, and Landon Robinson, the big nose tackle, can bench press 460 pounds. So we had a chance to chat with him. He's going to become a Marine Corps officer. Okay. Let's go around and start our initial thoughts about the Navy game. Sam, what are your thoughts at this moment on the matchup coming up Saturday?
The game this week's game presents a significant challenge to Army, and they've got a lot of things they need to account for with regards to this Navy team. And we all know what happened last year. Army coming off of the American Conference Championship and having a phenomenal year with Bryson Daly in the Heisman running, Army leading the nation in rushing, and all of these other accolades that were occurring, never took into account the fact of how tired and beat up the Army team really was, and how little time it had to finally prepare for the biggest game of the year. And so what happened in the end was that Navy revitalized under Brian Newberry and under their genius offensive coordinator, Drew Cronick, managed to put together a game plan that took advantage of every weakness that Army brought into the FedEx Field Stadium, and delivered a pretty significant beatdown on the Army team. And this is not lost on Army. These guys have had the date of last year's game on their mind, on their T-shirts, on everything that they do, ever since the day that game ended. And they've been locked in on making sure that they are better prepared, and that they are more locked in and focused and healed and more energetic with a better game plan coming in to be able to face this extremely explosive Navy offense, which is what, the two things that I am most concerned about coming into this game are the Army offense, as I've been saying all year long, but more specifically, the Army's offense against Brian Newberry coached Navy teams, and the historical trend of the past 6 seasons for how apathetic the Army offense production has been. And at the same time, a Navy offense which is extremely explosive, very prolific, incredible game players like Horvath. You've got Heidenreich.
Yeah.
And you've got Teska. These three players, they're real ballers, and they are game changers on offense. And I think that I saw a stat recently. I believe Navy leads FBS football this season for most offensive plays of 50 yards or more. These are things that have to be accounted for. And I know that the Army coaching staff has got to be burning the midnight oil. It's not something that they just started at the end of the UTSA game. Obviously, planning for this event has started. It started a year ago. It probably started the day after the Army-Navy game last season. But now they are refining what plans they've drawn up, and they are putting together game plans on both sides of the ball that are going to be geared to attack Navy and stifle Navy at the same time. And we'll find out Saturday how effective this preparation has been, and how healthy the Army team is, and how locked in they are.
Okay, very good, Sam. Thank you. Let's go to Curtis Harris. What's your thought on the game?
So there's a lot of things that kind of run through my mind. When I look at Navy and you breaking Navy down, right? They have, as Sam mentioned, he highlighted Drew Connick, if I mentioned his name right, the offensive coordinator for Navy. They have so many different key points to their offense. They run the Delaware wing T, if I'm not mistaken. It is such a unique offense, but I think with Drew Connick, what they've done is against especially the service academies, they run plays that they've never run before. They run, well, I mean, not run before in general. I'm sure they practice them, but they don't, utilize them against other teams until they play the service academies. And against Air Force, for example, they ran 14 plays that Navy had never run, not only this year, but also in the last 3 years. They'd never run those plays before, and I think, to be honest, it's going to be a head scratcher for Nate Woody. I this is going to be a really tough game for our defense. It's not even about whether or not we're talented enough to beat Navy. We have the talent level. We have the talent level, and if anything, I actually think we're more talented than Navy. But I think like their offense is so unique and so unbalanced, and where it keeps people off guard. It keeps them on the tippy toes. What we really need to do is somehow either keep Navy's offense off the field or match them offensively. And I'm saying this in terms of either we expect them to score and we let them score. Not we let them score, but we expect they're going to score a number of points, whatever that number is, and then our offense keeps up with them, or we keep their offense off the field. That's, in my opinion, what's going on. I know it sounds pessimistic. I'm just being just realistic with it. We need to, and I think we will succeed because, as Sam mentioned, I think ever since last year's Army Navy game, this team has been thinking about it. And I'm not talking about the team, the players. The coaching staff has been thinking about Navy since the end of last year. And I think we're going to succeed in that realm. And then we're ready this time around. I feel like last year, I think we came in maybe with too much cockiness and thinking that we're going to just run this team over. But now we've seen what they can do. And I'm actually like relatively confident with the Army coaching staff and the players. I know the players are always going to be confident, but the coaching staff, I think that they're going to come up with a scheme to slow down Navy and let us come up, as the victors.
Okay, very good, Curtis. Well, you look at the Navy offense, they're averaging 32 points a game. Army's averaging 23. So you get a 9-point differential on the season to start. Navy is averaging 434 yards a game. Army's averaging 335. So they're averaging almost 100 yards a game more than Army. Rushing 298 a game. Army's down to 256. So Army's kind of down about 45 yards a game from where they've been, and around the 300 yards per game area. And Navy scored 38 touchdowns. Army scored 25. So a lot of things there. And what stands out is the passing yardage for Navy.
Yeah.
They're averaging 136 yards passing. Army's averaging 78. So they've found a way to open up their offense, as Sam and Curtis said. And they're also pretty effective on third down, 49%. Army's 40%. They're also 64% on fourth down. And Blake Horvath just having an amazing season. He's run for 1,040 yards, 6 yards a carry, 14 touchdowns rushing, and over 100 yards a game rushing, and passing 81 of 131, 5 interceptions. Completion 62% average, 9 touchdown passes, averaging 139 yards a game. So impressive offensive set of statistics. Also, the running back, Alex Texa, he's got 779 yards and averaging almost 6 yards a carry, 9 touchdowns. And so they're pretty formidable on offense. And it's going to be a handful for Army to handle. Of course, we'll talk to Nate Woody tomorrow night after practice. Chuck, what's your thought on the game?
Well, Ken, there's definitely a great deal of significance than just beyond the traditional Army-Navy rivalry and the significance of the game itself. This will be 9th time since 1972. The game will be a winner-take-all matchup for the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. And it's also the first time that Army and Navy are doing so in back-to-back seasons, the second time ever since 1977-78.
Yeah, well, it's I was just looking in the notes of the recent winners. Army got back to winning it. They hadn't won it in about 20 years, but they won it in 2017.
Yep.
And then also in 2018, Navy won it in 2019. Army had the big win in the COVID year, 2020, winning the 2 games back to back. 15-0 over Navy and 10-7 over Air Force, back-to-back games at Mikey Stadium. And then 2021, it was a round robin. Army beat Air Force in overtime, but Navy beat Army. And Air Force snuck in and won it in 2022. And 2023, Army got it back with wins over Air Force, 23-3 and 17-11 over Navy. Navy won it last year with their win 31-13.
Right.
And so we'll see this year. Navy defeated Air Force in October, 34-31, close game. And then Army defeated Air Force 20-17 on that last second field goal by Dawson Jones after the clutch pass from Cale Helms to Brady Anderson to set it up. I haven't heard from Richard. Richard,
yeah.
what are you thinking about Army Navy?
What am I thinking about Army Navy? This is thankfully, it comes down to 2 games for Army season. Well, first this, and then of course the Fenway Bowl. But first, this game where they're going to have to, I think, limit the turnovers, because this
Okay.
Navy is really good on the season. They're going to have to limit the mistakes, and I think also execute. And I think one thing in particular, execute on third downs. I think one thing that's been, I think, something we've talked about a lot this year, the third down conversions are so critical, and especially when we've talked about in the losses.
Good point. Richard, very good point. Hey, Richard brought up, well, why don't we talk about it for a minute? The Army will play University of Connecticut at Fenway Park in Boston on the 27th of December. I was just up at Fenway Park in September for a baseball game. And Fenway used to be, going way back, a site of a lot of college football games. And so it was pretty common in the fall for football games. Patriots played there for a few years in the 60s. So it's not so different. Just like there used to be a lot of football at Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium, and the Polo Grounds was a big site for college football. The New York Giants played there, and Army played quite a few games at the Polo Grounds, as well as the Notre Dame game at Yankee Stadium. So it's going back sort of the origin when the biggest cities, and a lot of the biggest stadiums in a lot of the eastern cities were baseball stadiums. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they fit in the field. Its end zone is right field towards third base. And I think it'll be a pretty good crowd. Hopefully the weather isn't too cold and snowy, but that'll be something. Sam, what was your thought about Army being selected for invited to the Fenway Bowl? I know you said what I thought. We all thought they were going to go back to Fort Worth to the Armed Forces Bowl. That didn't happen for whatever reason, but I think Fenway is going to be an interesting place to have a bowl game. What do you think?
Sure. I'll preface it just by saying this. I hope that none of the players and coaches are thinking about the Fenway Bowl right now. This is Navy week, and this is an announcement that should have absolutely no bearing on the mental preparation of the players and the coaches. They're locked in on being 0-0. Navy is the opponent. Navy's who they're locked in and focused on. Beyond that, yes, Army was selected for a bowl game by virtue of the fact that they played a amazing come-from-behind victory game in San Antonio against UTSA that we spoke about last week. And the surprise of the announcement was that many of us, including many of the bowl predictors that you'll see, the pundits on ESPN and other places, many of them had Army predicted to be back in the Armed Forces Bowl in Fort Worth. And I got early word of what bowl game they were in before the announcement was made via one of the parents of one of the players. and I was a little shocked. But then I had to back up my initial shock about Boston and Fenway Bowl with saying it's not about me, the fan, wanting to go to Fort Worth. It's about the team getting honored with the opportunity to go represent the United States Military Academy in a bowl game, and that is an honor. And so congratulations to the team for being able to overcome the adversity that you faced earlier this season, the one-score losses, double overtime, last 2 minutes at Tulane, last 30 seconds of the game against Tulsa. You managed to overcome all of that in order to win when you had to win, mature as a team, and do what was necessary in order to be able to go to a bowl game back to back for the first time since 2020 and 2021. So congratulations to the team. And like Ken said, we hope that the weather in Boston is not too cold and not too windy.
Not too snowy. Snowy mainly because it'll be harder to get there, but it'll be interesting. I mean, just to see Fenway Park laid out for football, it really brings back to games played there 40, 50, 60 years ago. And so I think it'll be fun. I'm interested to maybe get below the stands because I'm told they use the baseball locker rooms and they're really small, even by Major League Baseball standards. And I'm curious to see how they set it up to accommodate teams with 65 players and 10 or 12 coaches and 10 trainers. But they may have created more space under the stands. They probably did a modernization like a lot of teams have done to create more state-of-the-art conditions for their players and for baseball. So it'll be fun, but we'll worry about that after Saturday. I think one of the things to talk a little bit about is the defensive side. And I was very impressed meeting Landon Robinson last week at the media day, the nose tackle for Navy. He's a senior. He's branching Marine Corps. They don't call it branching in there, but he's going to be a Marine Corps ground officer, and he's had a very productive year, and he can bench press 460 pounds. Was kind of one of the things that stood out in looking at his record. I think he's got 14 tackles for a loss on the year.
His name is
very
Landon Thomas,
impressive
Landon
player.
Robinson, right?
About 285 pounds, about 6 foot and 285. So he's going to be a challenge. What are your thoughts about the Navy defense, Sam?
Yeah, well, Landon Robinson is their best player, and he is the nose tackle. He was All-American Conference this season. As Jeff Monken said in his presser today, he's one of the best nose tackles in the country. Last year, he was a literal wrecking ball on A and B gap. Literally took away the inside running game is what he did on both A and B gap. And it was extremely disruptive to Army's offense last season. A critical matchup in this game is going to be Brady Small versus Robinson. And is Brady Small going to be able to contain and remove Robinson as a threat on the inside running game, which is also critical to Army's offensive success, because Army, of course, always wants to establish the inside running game as part of the setup of the triple option and plays that also emanate from the triple option. Navy's defense this season has not been statistically well as compared to previous years under Brian Newberry. Their defensive performance this year, there have been a number of games in which they have given up 400 plus yards. And this is various games that they have done this. They did it against East Carolina. South Florida. They did it against Temple. They did it against Notre Dame. They did it against another team earlier this season, and I'm drawing a blank on which one it was. They gave up a boatload of yards to Memphis in the first half, but then made adjustments that put the clamp down on Memphis that was very impressive. They are capable of playing, and they play a very attacking, aggressive scheme, same that Brian Newberry brought to Navy back in 2019 when he was a defensive coordinator. They do a lot of shifting at the line of scrimmage, especially before the snap. They do a lot of slant rushing. They attack the gaps to disrupt, try to quickly fill gaps to disrupt the blocking schemes and tie up the inside running game, free up their linebackers to make plays in space. And traditionally, this schematic that they have been running has been extremely effective against Army. And if I might just use a little bit of historical perspective here, I mentioned that Brian Newberry came to Navy in 2019. Jeff Monken's first season at Army was 2014. It might surprise some of the viewers to know that Jeff Monken's best statistically offensive games against Navy were his first 5 seasons, from 2014 through 2018. In those seasons, Army averaged 218.8 yards rushing, 72.2 yards passing, and averaged 291 total yards in the Army-Navy game. They also had their only 3-game winning streak of the entire time Monken has been the head coach, and they won back-to-back Commander-in-Chief trophy. In 2019, Army had kind of a bad season, we all know, and they got blown out in the Army-Navy game with Malcolm Perry playing quarterback. At first, I attributed that as an anomaly, that being, I would put an asterisk and say, well, that was the Malcolm Perry year. However, in the past 6 seasons, Army's offense has averaged 137.5 yards rushing, 51.3 yards passing, and a paltry 188.8 yards total. Their worst rushing performance was last season with Bryson Daly, where they managed only 114 yards. Now, with that, we understand now the impact that Brian Newberry has had on Navy's defense and its ability to stop Army's offense. And in order for Army to be able to stop this trend of very paltry offensive performances, they are going to have to open up the playbook. They have got to get the ball in space to playmakers. They have got to get the ball north and south. They've got to get the ball east and west along the perimeter. And again, the key matchup is going to be Brady Small versus Robinson on the inside. If the intent of the Army offense, the plan of the Army offense is to expect Navy to bring a sledgehammer, and they're going to sledgehammer each other, as Monken has mentioned, and that Army's just going to keep it close until the bitter end and try to if they get a lead, to manage to milk the clock and preserve the lead. It ain't going to work. It didn't work last year, and it will not work this year. Helms left, Helms right, Helms up the middle is not going to work any better than Daly right, Daly left, Daly up the middle, or Anderson right, Anderson left, Anderson up the middle, or Tyler right, Tyler left, Tyler up the middle. This is an offensive formula that over the past 6 seasons against Brian Newberry has been proven to be a failure. And it has averaged only 11.5 offensive points a game over that same time span. Army went 3-3 over those 6 games, yes. But let me point out something. The 3 games that Army won in 2020, the defense had a goal line stand in the 3rd quarter. The defense forced a turnover on Navy's own 10-yard line in the 4th quarter, and the defense got a safety on Navy later in the 4th quarter. Both of that turnover on the 10-yard line and the safety and the subsequent kick led to 2 Army scores that put the game away in the end. In 2022, Army blocked a punt right before halftime and returned it for a touchdown if that special teams play did not happen, then Navy wins the game in regulation because Army's offense was not getting it done. And in 2023, let me remind you that early in the fourth quarter, Kaleb Fortner strip sacked Lavatai and took the ball in from about 50 yards out for a touchdown.
Yeah, that's a great moment.
And Navy was driving. But if for not that Kaleb Fortner strip sack, it is very possible that Army would have lost that game because once again, their offense was not getting it done. So there has been enough case study opportunity for Army's offense and Army's coaches to understand that playing a simplified offensive playbook of a lot of quarterback keepers, a lot of quarterback dives and midline runs is feeding the Navy defense into their strength. And it's not working. Historically, it's not working. And there's nothing to suggest over the past 6 seasons that taking the exact same game plan as last year, dating back to 2019, is going to be any more effective against Navy than it has been over the past 6 years. It will not. And this will turn into a pretty ugly contest pretty quick if that's what Army's intent is on offense, because Navy's defense is ready for that. They expect it, and they'll dominate it.
Can I say something in response?
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, having just sat with Cody Worley, the Army offensive coordinator, he says a lot. Let's not have Army beat Army. They don't want to have, they are going to do everything they can to manage the ball and not have turnovers. Because one turnover could be the difference in this game for reasons you stated, as it was in 2023, the Kaleb Fortner strip sack run back for a touchdown. So we will see, but I think they want to try to get the ball to Noah Short. They want to get the ball to Samari Howard, utilize a couple of their fullbacks. But the other factor is Paolo Generali, if he's able to play. I asked Cody Worley about him, and he said he's been practicing, likely he's going to dress. So you might see Paolo Generali there at right guard. And that helps on the double team on Landon Robinson, helps Brady Small out. And so another factor to look at. I was just going to go down. Curtis, do you have something?
Yeah, so I just want to add something to this. I usually don't try to add something randomly, but it's just that it is Army Navy, and this means a lot to me. So looking at it from my perspective, I've analyzed the Army Navy game since really 2001, and this is back to Paul Johnson all the way through. I think the difference to me between Army and Navy, and this is just me being completely honest, when you really break down Army and Navy, one of the big differences, even with Jeff Monken coming in, is the quarterback position. I'm not talking about our quarterback this year. I'm talking about historically speaking. As Sam was talking about, I know since 2019 we've had a decline in an offensive production. I'm aware of that. I have seen that, but I think there's something different about the way Navy plays in the Army Navy game, where it seems like they're playing to win and Army is playing not to lose. That's just the take that I've seen, where Navy's, they seem like they're calling these plays where the quarterback has free will to just run around and do whatever he wants. And I'm not saying whatever he wants, but he has the athletic mobility to just go from X to Y to Z, all that stuff, just every single time. This has kind of been the case since Malcolm Perry. It seems like since they've had Malcolm Perry, they've recruited kids that kind of mimic his ability. And we haven't had a quarterback like him that were, as opposed to running, quarterback to the right, quarterback to the left, quarterback up the middle. It's like they have the ability to have a quarterback that not only can pass, but can juke people out, make people look silly to some degree. They have some, I think they've zeroed in at the quarterback position and said, we need to put our best athlete at that position and see where that goes and takes us against Army. That's just something that I've openly talked about in a bunch of different forums. And I don't know. It's just something that just hits me every single time. I mean, especially with Horvath. He's a good guy, great guy. I've heard a bunch of interviews that he's done, and also Ken, we did your interview with him, incredible. I actually watched that. But Horvath is like, he's reminds me of Malcolm Perry a little different,
Mhm.
but it's just kind of the same repetition. I think Navy's gotten a hold of what works against our defense, and that's having a quarterback that's similar or like, and I think ideally for them, mimics like a twin to Malcolm Perry.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my response.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. We should point out that Army has had considerable success in the series since 2016, winning 2016, winning 2017, winning 2018, losing in 2019, but then winning in 2020 in the COVID year, and then winning 2022, 2023. So Army's had considerable success since 2016 against Navy. But yeah, I think it is about avoiding turnovers and then capitalizing on opportunities. And Army's defense has had some goal line stands. I remember the one in 2020, and obviously the big stop in 2023, where the defense came up big. Some of the stats favor Army's defense. Army's defense giving up 23 points a game, Navy 27. They're about the same on giving up rushing yardage. Navy's giving up 143 yards rushing, Army 147. But it's kind of a difference in passing. Army's giving up 210 yards a game, and an advantage. Navy's giving up 255. So the Army defense under Nate Woody, we'll talk with him tomorrow, has been very effective. They're a bend don't break defense, very tough in the red zone, and so we will see. And Army's also able to generate some turnovers. Certainly, we saw the big interception last week at UTSA. So let's see, Chuck, you have a thought on the defensive side?
Yeah, well, and I think hopefully if they avoid the same mistakes that happened last year, should be all right. I'm hoping, it'll result in a victory and that they keep it tight throughout. Just hoping they stick to it. What's won them games past this season, and that they don't get distracted. Certainly, Sam pointed out, by the upcoming Wasabi Fenway Bowl.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be distracted. One thing that Navy's done is they have 25 sacks. I think half of those are by Landon Robinson.
Yeah.
And Army has 12. And watch for Kaleb Fortner. Kaleb Fortner's got to have a big game.
Yeah.
Getting into the Navy backfield, making plays.
Yeah. Can't make a comment about defense.
Go ahead.
Since I did talk about offense. First, I did want to state emphatically, I completely agree with Kurtz about the different approach that both of these teams seem to have with regards to this game. And that is Navy, when Navy takes a lead, they go for the jugular. They literally keep the attack, and they attack and they attack and they attack. They'll run fake punts. They'll run backside screen plays to take advantage of Army's over pursuit. They've done that if you go back and look at every single Navy game that Army has played with Monken, they have run the backside screen to either the slot or the tight end every single game, and every single time it works. And they just pop it at a random moment where they recognize that Army's over pursuing to one side. And they take advantage. They will do everything in their power to run the score up if they have the opportunity to. And 2024 and 2019 are two great examples of that. Whereas Army will get the lead, and Army will then play as though they're just trying to prevent Navy from taking the lead back. And they pull the throttle off of the offense and just try to milk the clock. You can't do that. They've got to be in the attack mode this entire game. If they get the lead, they've got to go for more lead. They've got to start padding the points. And that's where the defense comes in. This is a real severe test for the Army defense. People like to say that, oh, Army-Navy games are so close because the two teams know each other so well. That might have been true 2 years ago, because 2 years ago, both teams were running the same offense. Last year, that changed by a gentleman named Drew Cronick coming in as Navy's offensive coordinator. Navy now runs an offense that I believe they are the only team in FBS football who runs it. So the only time Army will ever see the offense that Navy runs is when they play Navy. They didn't see it against Air Force. Air Force runs the flex bone just like Army. So what is this crazy offense that Navy's running? The Delaware Wing T and the derivative thereof. Think of it this way. It's like the shell game, where the guy throws the ball under. He's got three shells. He throws one ball. He throws the ball under one of the shells, and then he starts shuffling it all around. And then you got to pick which shell the ball's under. That's exactly what Navy does on every play. They start it starts with their offensive line. They do deception through their own blocking schemes. It's designed to cause defenses to pursue in one direction, believing that's where the ball's going. And all of this eye candy that Navy does removes the defensive awareness from where the ball actually is. And what ends up happening is you think the ball's going in one direction, and next thing you know, Tesga's running downfield. You think the ball's going in one direction, and then there's Horvath is going around in downfield. Or you see the ball going in one direction, and it's suddenly a pop pass to Heidenreich. So here's what Army's defense has got to do. They have got to play the most disciplined game of defense that they have ever played. They have to play their position. They cannot over pursue. They have got to have ball awareness of where the ball is and do not get distracted by all of these eye candy movements that Navy uses on offense to try to create a deception where they pop a big play. And they do not exercise the ability to do that. You're going to see Navy running downfield just like last season.
Okay, very good. Well, Richard, can you run down for us? Why don't you run through the first round of games in the college football playoff? We've got one American Conference team in that.
Okay, the first round, the college football playoff bracket, that is going to be, let's see, James Madison will be number 12. James Madison is taking on number 5 Oregon. Number 9 Alabama is taking on number 8 Oklahoma. Number 6 Tulane will be number 6 Ole Miss will be taking on number 11 Tulane. Miami will be number 10 will be taking on number 7 Texas A&M. The byes are Ohio State number 2, Georgia number 3, Indiana number 1, and Texas Tech number 4.
Okay, thank you, Richard. That's very good. A lot of conjecture with James Madison and Tulane getting in that they may not be at the same competitive level, and then just this ongoing debate about the last two spots. There were three candidates: Miami and Notre Dame, and Alabama. And Alabama and Miami got those two slots, and the Notre Dame people are really unhappy about it. In fact, they had some rather strong messaging about that the Atlantic Coast Conference didn't have their backs on the process. Sam, any thoughts on the selection of the college football playoff?
Yeah, I agree with the top 4. And maybe the next 3 or 4 in the rankings. I don't agree with James Madison being in the college football playoff. I don't agree with Tulane being in the college football playoff either. But then again, I live in Alabama, and I do not agree with Alabama being in the college football playoff. I think Notre Dame may have a legitimate beef. However, I do not think Notre Dame has handled this well. To just say that we're not going to take a bid, they were offered made an offer to play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and they turned it down. And they said, no, we're going to just stay at home because we didn't make the college football playoff. That sets a really bad message out to college football. And not only that, it's not a very good way to reward your players for a great season, to just up and say you're not going to play in a bowl game. What about the players? I mean, playing in a bowl game is an honor, and it is something that you should give when your players have worked their tails off all season long and put yourself in position, regardless of whether or not you believe you should have been in a college football playoff or not. You should still have accepted the bowl bid and played in it and proven to the college football committee why you should have been selected. I personally think that Vanderbilt should have been selected instead of James Madison. And believe me, I believe that if Vanderbilt played James Madison head to head, Vanderbilt would run him off the field. Tulane is getting a second shot at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is one of the teams that actually destroyed Tulane earlier this year. So we'll see what happens. I am never really convinced that the college football playoff selection committee is not driven by money and conference money, and not more so trying to find the best teams possible to be a part of the college football playoff.
And Kelly says you're.
Okay.
I was reading.
Now, when you
Stephanie
say
just read.
conference money, Sam, what that
Brian
sounds
Kelly.
like to me is if from the conferences split, in most cases, the payout for each member that is in the playoff. And so if Alabama was in instead of Notre Dame, the conference shares in that revenue. Notre Dame, I'm not sure if they were going to share any revenue with the conference.
They don't.
They normally don't. So
Yeah.
that's what was in that statement about the conference preferring Alabama to be in versus Notre Dame because the revenue share that the conference members would benefit from. But I'm not sure that was the overall driving factor.
Can I say one
in
thing,
all
Ken?
that.
I'll make it really
Go ahead,
quick.
Curtis.
I promise. So I played for. So I don't know if Ken knows this or anybody in here knows, but maybe Sam knows. I played for UPenn. I went to UPenn undergrad, graduated, did all that stuff, and I look at it. The Ivy League, as it relates to the playoff system in Division I AA, the reason why the Ivy League didn't do it for a long time is because they didn't make the same revenue. So the Ivy League teams, as soon as Harvard this year or Yale went to the Ivy League playoffs and they realized they make $1 million, they started doing it. And I think as it relates to the playoff system right now, in terms of revenue streaming, it goes beyond who's the better team. It's who's making the most money and who financially is better off doing it. That's why you look at Tulane and James Madison, because of the way they're stated, they actually make money going to the playoff game as opposed to Notre Dame and Alabama. I know it sounds weird and messed up, but that's kind of how it is. And that's just looking at it from a money perspective.
No, every school who plays in the college football playoff earns revenue, substantial revenue. Now, the question is, in a lot of cases, money earned by a school in the NCAA basketball tournament or this playoff is shared equally by all of the conference members. So, yeah, I think Harvard and you went to Penn, they just saw that they wanted the end of the football season to be, at Thanksgiving, and then they actually could have their students study for exams and papers in December.
Yeah, that's true.
Which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
But let's have Chuck go through the bowl bids that the American Conference team have.
Yep. Well, Ken, we've got quite a few coming up. Yep. Including those mentioned by Richard. Starts December 17th. South Florida takes on Old Dominion. Yep, that will be at 5 o'clock. And on December 19th, Memphis, North Carolina State. While December 20th, 3:30, Tulane versus Ole Miss. Finally, day after Christmas, December 26th, 8 p.m., UTSA at FIU.
Okay, and of course, Army will be playing UConn.
Yep, can't forget that. Yep.
And
Navy's playing
in
Cincinnati in the Liberty Bowl.
the Liberty Bowl,
Yes.
where Army was in 2020.
Yep.
And not exactly Liberty Bowl in Memphis is not a warm weather site.
So that
Yeah.
So
Squids.
okay, let's go. We have just a few minutes left. So any more thoughts about overriding thoughts about Army versus Navy?
One thing,
we'll be
I'll
down
make it
there on,
quick.
I should
Oh, go
mention on Friday, we'll be covering the debate team match between the two schools. Always an impressive
Oh.
event. There's also the Patriot Games, which is kind of a series of obstacle course events, pull-ups, and then there's also a pep rally on Friday. And then for some, we'll be going to the Army Navy Gala, which I've been to a couple of times and is an extraordinary event. They basically split the ballroom between the two schools. So you have one night Navy on one side, the one night Army on the other, and the two superintendents get up and it's a lot of fun.
We'll be
okay.
there.
Any other thoughts?
Really quick, I don't know if Ken knows this. I will make it quick. My dad, so he's on the board at West Point, and he's actually in Baltimore right now. And they're having a board meeting about the futures of Army, Navy, and a bunch of different stuff. So that's cool. But then, two, I actually asked ChatGPT, what do you think about this year's game? And ChatGPT never gets it wrong. They're always right. And I'm not saying they're going to be right, but it says Army's going to win 17-13. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, we'll take that. We'll accept that.
Stephanie, did you have any additional comments that came in from the viewing audience? Those who are on?
Other than the one that I wrote in the chat, no. I keep asking questions to see if we can get more feedback. But so far that wasn't too bad of feedback. Of some Brian K saying, Sam, your analysis is absolutely spot on. 100% agree on everything you said. He said it pains me to say this, but currently Navy is the better team.
Okay. Now, Stephanie, we should have gone to it before this, had prepared a couple of video clips based on the Army Navy Media Day with a couple of the captains. You want to play a couple of those for us, maybe one from each team?
Yeah. We'll do this one.
All right.
Okay.
This is Andon.
Anna, first off, we saw you down in San Antonio. A great win by the team. What was your thoughts coming away from the game at UTSA?
Yeah, it was obviously a great game. You know, a roller coaster of emotions. You know, to be able to win and become bowl eligible and play another game later in December, early in January, it's truly a blessing. But really proud of the guys. You know, I think we're finally able to finish. You know, I think we've struggled finishing through our games this year, and you know, we were able to finish offense, defense, special teams. We all did our things. And, you know, I'm just really proud of the guys.
Okay, why don't you just keep playing those two, what you prepared, Stephanie?
Okay, and then here's the second one.
By the way, Stephanie, I just heard that from a viewer that they can't comment on our stream. Just letting you know. I just heard that randomly.
That's weird because
okay.
But here's the second one.
That's Kaleb Fortner.
Kaleb Fortner.
Big win down in San Antonio on Saturday. Came from behind, a lot of big defensive plays. What'd you take away from that game?
I took away that this team can finish. You know, we've had times during our season that we've kind of failed to do so, and it's been unfortunate, but it's just a margin of error in college football. You know, we've got a lot of wins that we should have had, but we lost by a touchdown or less. But it is what it is. What I took away from UTSA was, you know, really positive. You know, we were able to finish in the fourth quarter there. Like you said, we came down from 10-0. early in the first quarter, and we were very resilient on both sides of the football. And I'm just very proud of our brothers.
Okay, and
Alright,
Stephanie, I think we
and-
have one of the Navy players,
Yes, we do. So I will pull that one up next.
Landon Robinson.
Yep. And here's that one.
Tell us a little bit about you've had a very successful season. What have been some of the highlights for you?
Yeah, no doubt. I think just definitely being able to, have the wins that we have right now, being able to grow and develop as a team. We've had a lot of young guys, throughout this season that have continued to grow and get better. So I think I'm super proud of those guys. But obviously, being able to be named Defensive Player of the Year is such an honor, and I'm extremely thankful for that.
Well,
Okay, great job, Stephanie, getting those film clips up onto our video tonight. Okay, I think it's time for our lightning round. And we can predict what's going to happen in Baltimore on Saturday.
So we
let's see.
have another comment from Charles Granger. Says Navy smells like beef and cheese. Go Army.
Okay, well, appreciate that. Okay, well, let's go down. Chuck, what's your thought on Army versus Navy in Baltimore 2025?
Ken, perhaps my optimism is running a bit wild, but I think they're going to have a solid win here. I think it's going to end with a 42-14 Army victory.
42-14, big offensive day for the Black Knights. Okay. Let's go to Curtis Harris. What's your thought on the game?
So I posted this across a bunch of blogs. I would say Army's going to win 24-13, beat Navy.
24-13. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Curtis. And let's go to our sage. Richard, what are you going to do? What's your prediction?
I'm going to go 24-17 Army, and they're gonna have a big defensive stop on the last play of the game when Navy's trying to drive to tie the game.
Okay.
And this could
Okay.
be a deflected pass, incomplete.
Okay.
I'm going to hold you
let's
to
go
that,
to,
by the way.
Let's go to Stephanie.
Oh.
What's Stephanie? What do you think?
I am thinking I'm predicting Army to win. I think it will be close if we can still play like we are. I did watch some more of the videos, especially of the Navy Landon, the Navy player. He said that they really have learned and really pushed of stopping the runs. They have made it so that they will stop. Like they will make sure that every play is stopped. So it's going to be tight. I think it's going to be 24-21 with Army.
24-21. Yeah. Navy is averaging giving up just 143 yards rushing per game. Army's giving up 147. Okay, well, let's go to Sam.
Yeah. The attitude's very different this time than it was last year. I know it just seemed last year that Army was, they were in the midst of a really fantastic season, and it seemed like the coaches were a little bit more loose about making bulletin board material statements. And I remember last season there was the moment where Monken was asked about Navy, and he made the comment about, do they still have a football program there? And that seemed to just feed and
Yeah, it didn't help.
anger about the game, and they were quick to point that out after the game last year. This year you haven't heard any of that, and it tells me that this team and the coaches are way more focused and locked in, and they have not forgotten what happened at FedEx Field last year. I think Army comes ready to play. I think they come very locked in and focused. That does not take away from the fact that Navy is a good team. But one thing I did want to point out earlier about Navy is that if you've watched them play this year, they actually have put the ball on the deck a lot more frequently this year than they did last year. They have a habit of fumbling in the backfield on some of these quick handoffs and something like that. I think Army's defense is going to have a game plan from Nate Woody that's going to be able to key in on that and be able to take advantage of these moments when Navy has a slight lapse on their ball handling and take advantage of some turnovers. And this is going to make a difference in the game. I'm still thinking along the same lines as Richard there. I would love to say that this game is going to be a blowout, like Chuck said, and that we're all like celebrating and popping corks in the fourth quarter and jeering and getting ready to go to Drunk Old Grad's unofficial after party. But I don't think it's going to be like that. I think the final score is going to be Army 28, Navy 24. And much like Richard said, unfortunately, we're going to be on pins and needles in the last minute of the game because Navy's going to have the ball. And it is going to come down to a defensive stop that is going to secure the victory. And
Okay, thank you, Colonel.
It's going to come back to West Point where it belongs.
Commander-in-Chief trophy and a White House visit that goes with that that victory, and obviously singing second. I think it's going to be close. I think Army's really learned to manage the ball well. Cale Helms is maturing as a quarterback, found a way to win against UTSA. A lot of it was on his own running, but he also was able to complete 3 clutch passes, 2 to Parker Pulaski, one of which was a touchdown, 1 to Samari Howard. And the key is also getting Noah Short into the game. As we talked earlier, Brady Small and Paolo Generali versus the big Navy nose tackle Landon Robinson is a key matchup. And just generally keeping Blake Horvath from having a big game. He's been averaging running for over 100 yards a game, and he's passing effectively as well. So there's a lot on the Army defense. I'm going to go with a prediction. I think 24 points is what's been the lowest total. So I'm going to go for 23, and I think Army's going to be able to sneak out a 23 to 17 win. I don't think they're going to
Let's go
Navy all the way.
Yeah.
But I think Army 23 to 17. Okay. Any final thoughts before we break?
Beat Navy.
Couldn't have said it better.
Time to walk the walk. Go Army, beat Navy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we will be down there. We'll have coverage. John Sharan and I will be there. We can't take video during the game, but we'll be covering the march on of cadets and the march on of brigade of midshipmen, which starts at 12 noon. And I believe that is going to be on the CBS Sports Network. And then after much pageantry and much activity and the likely visit of the President of the United States to the coin toss, they will actually start playing football at probably about 3:15, and it's an amazing game. And one of the things I've always noticed is that it gets dark at halftime, and then it's all about just winning the game.
And colder.
It's like the whole second half is crunch time, especially if it's close. But it's a lot of fun to watch, and great young Americans on both sides of the field having a day in the spotlight. And also a chance to recognize and respect the services they represent, the Army, the Navy, and the Marine Corps. So thank everybody. We've got Colonel Sam Houston at the Beat Navy studio in Huntsville, Alabama. Thank you, Colonel.
Absolutely. We'll see you in Baltimore, Ken. And I bring you one sole thought, one single life, that is go Army, beat Navy.
Okay. And from New York City, we have Curtis Harris. Curtis, thank you.
Beat Navy.
Okay. And from Long Island, we've got Chuck Donegan.
Yeah. Just going to keep the tide, go Army, beat Navy.
Okay. And from sultry West Palm Beach, Florida, we've got Richard Miller.
Thank you, Ken. Go Army, beat Navy.
Okay, and
Ooh.
out in the tundra of Minnesota, we have Stephanie Sakry. Stephanie, thank you for getting us on the air and for inserting the video clips today. That looked pretty good.
Yeah, no problem. And definitely go Army, beat Navy. And I hope to see you at the Army Navy Gala if you're going to be there this year.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. Okay, well, we'll have coverage on Friday. Watch our Twitter at KG Kraetzer Media, and also on YouTube, which you're watching. We'll have some of the Friday events and some of the pregame activities, certainly the march on of the cadets and midshipmen, and some pregame activity, all the things that go on, the exchange of prisoners, the exchange students, the arrival of the game balls that are run to the stadium from each campus, which is particularly a long run from West Point over about 220 miles, but they do it. There'll be parachute jumps and a huge introduction for the coin toss, where the leadership of both the Army and the Navy and the Marine Corps will join the team captains for that big moment, and the anticipated presence of President Trump for that moment for the coin toss. And then the run out, the entry of the two teams with the Blue Angels flying overhead for the Navy, and the Army helicopters flying over the entry of the Army team. And then they'll start playing Tsunami through the kickoff, and what a high energy moment that is. And then they'll play football. So anyway, so great. Looking forward to it. Thank our team. Thanks, Stephanie, for getting us on the air. And we will see you in Baltimore, or you can watch the game on the CBS television network, as we say, the big CBS, starting 3 o'clock, march on at 12 noon. So for CamVetsMedia, we cover cadets, midshipmen, the military and veterans proudly since 2008. Thank you for watching.
Go Army, beat Navy.
Yeah.
Navy.
Go Army, beat Navy.
Again.